The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good evening, everyone. This is Venkadesh, and today we are going to discuss about identifying stakeholders. And this webinar is brought to you by IIBA Chennai chapter. And thank you for Mr. Kannan sir. He is the President IIBA Chennai chapter. He is the person who is organizing this webinars. And thank you once again, sir. Today we are going to discuss about identifying stakeholders. This is coming from Physics Business Consultants, and we are one of the endorsed education providers of IIBA Canada. Let us get into this topic. So today our agenda is, we will be discussing about 6 techniques that are helpful to identify the stakeholders. They are impact table, onion diagrams, stakeholder wheel, RACI Matrix, PSP Approach, and CRUD Matrix. The thing is, like, these are all the 6 techniques I would say most popularly used to identify the stakeholders. And we will kind of like, first we will start with who is the stakeholders and why it is important to select the right stakeholders. And we will also kind of like try to understand the importance of the stakeholders in various stages of business analysis activities. First, let us understand who is this business analyst, right? And we kind of like, as a business analyst, what do we do? The business analyst is the person who recommends solutions, right? The business analyst is the person who is recommending the solutions, and why he is recommending? He is helping the organization to reach its goals and objectives. And of course, we work with a lot of stakeholders in recommending the solution, and ultimately we help the organization to reach the goals and objectives. So if someone is asking me, as a business analyst, what do you do? Then my answer would be, I am recommending solutions to help the organization to reach its goals and objectives. But I am not doing it alone. I am working with a group of stakeholders. And today our discussion is centered around these stakeholders. And many people ask the question that the business analyst having a good domain knowledge, and he has, of course, the business analysis skill sets, why should we work with these stakeholders? Why should we work with these stakeholders, right? The thing is, it is for 2 aspects. One is, as a business analyst, I am not an encyclopedia of this organizational knowledge, right? I'm not a person who is kind of like completely aware of the ins and out of everything within the organization. Of course, I have the domain knowledge. I have some level of domain expertise, but there are people within the organization who have tremendous knowledge about the area in which I am going to do the business analysis. So if there are some people who have tremendous knowledge, why should not I use them, right? So that is the reason, like, we want to work with the stakeholders to leverage their knowledge in the area of their expertise. That is the first one. Then second, I'm not developing the solutions for my sake, right? I'm going to develop these solutions, or I'm going to recommend the solution to help my stakeholders in their day-to-day work. I'm going to simplify somebody's work. I'm going to give them tools to do their day-to-day activities. And I'm developing for them. I'm recommending the solutions for them. That is my stakeholders. If that is the case, I should talk to them, right? So for these 2 reasons, I have to work with my stakeholders. It is the number 1, I want to leverage their knowledge. I want to download their expertise into this business analysis discussions or into this project. And the second thing is, I'm developing something for their cause. Okay, I'm developing something for the stakeholders. In that case, I should talk to them, right? For these 2 reasons, we work with the stakeholders. Okay, let us kind of like, you see, the business analysis body of knowledge given by IIBA, we are focused on version 2, right? At this point of time, it is version 2. the thing is like we kind of like, we have these 9 chapters in BABOK. The 6 are knowledge areas and 3 are foundation chapters. This like, assume this like a site map. Okay. The thing is like, we want to understand where we will be kind of like, where we will be identifying the stakeholders and where we will be having kind of like a good amount of interaction with our stakeholders. The thing is like, here we have this 6 knowledge areas. BABOK has 9 chapters. That is BABOK version 2 has 9 chapters and 6 are knowledge areas and 3 are foundation chapters. The knowledge areas are enterprise analysis, business analysis planning and monitoring, elicitation, requirements analysis, requirements management and communication, and the final one is solution assessment and validation. The foundation chapters are introduction, underlying competencies and techniques. The thing is like, let us understand this sequence first. You see, in enterprise analysis, what we are doing in organizations, this is a very high level function, right? This is done by a senior most business analyst and sometimes it is done by a VP business analysis. And in some organizations, they are called as enterprise analyst, business strategist, business consultant in different names. But the work done by them is enterprise analysis. In enterprise analysis, basically what we are doing. Enterprise analysis basically starts with the needs, problems and opportunities, and these are all kind of like translated into proposals, and this proposal has been transformed into business case. In enterprise analysis, we are literally translating the proposals into a business case, and this business case is presented to the top management. And the top management reviews, and if it finds value, that is, there is a business value, the management approves, let us do this project. So when a management approves the business case, a project is born. And we start with the business analysis planning and monitoring. That is, we are getting the ground ready before the game starts. Right? In business analysis planning and monitoring, we are kind of like, we are doing business analysis approach. We are identifying the approach. We are identifying the stakeholders. We are making a communication plan, requirements plan, and the risks involved, and how we are going to monitor this project, business analysis project. So all those things we are doing. Then subsequently we start elicitation, and at the end of elicitation, we have bunch of documents called minutes of meetings or elicitation reports. Then we kind of like, as a business analyst, we sit in a lone corner and we extract these requirements out of this minutes of meeting. Then we come out with the fine-tuned requirements, which we go to our stakeholders again, and we present these requirements to our stakeholders and asking them, do you agree with the requirements what I got? Okay, though our stakeholders gave this, okay, but it was not in the requirements form, but now we have fine-tuned them, we have kind of like cleaned up those requirements, and I am presenting in the most palatable form, and I am giving to my stakeholders and asking them, do you agree with this? Of course, they may not agree in the first instance, but we have kind of like a lot of negotiations and other things happens, and we further fine-tune and we come out with the baseline requirements, and then we think about the solution. That is the last knowledge area. So here we work with our stakeholders very intensively. And if you see this 6 knowledge areas, you see in enterprise analysis, the stakeholders may be at very high level. Okay. But when we come to the business analysis planning and monitoring, we identify the stakeholders, right? In business analysis planning and monitoring, we identify the stakeholders. We want to kind of like come out with the list of stakeholders with whom I will be working. Then during elicitation, I meet the same stakeholders and ask them, what are the needs you have, what are the problems you are suffering from, and what are the opportunities in front of you, and what are the issues you are facing. So we have kind of like, we are gathering, I won't say like it is the requirements gathering, but it is the requirements, or it is the raw materials for the requirements. I don't get the exact requirements from my stakeholders, right? I kind of like, we discuss about the needs, problems and opportunities, issues, and so much of kind of like I would say a lot of complaints we hear, right? When we go and meet stakeholders for elicitation, we hear a lot of complaints. The thing is like, it is not basically complaints, it is the difficulty what they are facing. Our job is to rectify those difficulties, right? And the thing is like, during elicitation, we gather all these things and we have kind of like, we have a bunch of documents. We generate minutes of meetings and other things. And these are all the raw materials for these requirements. And subsequently, in requirements analysis, we extract them. Then again, we work intensively with our stakeholders, that is in requirements management and communication. I'm presenting those same requirements back to them. So the three areas here, the most important are, in business analysis, planning and monitoring, in this knowledge area, we actually list out our stakeholders. We identify the stakeholders. Okay, we name them. We kind of like, we know that these are all the stakeholders with whom I am going to work with. And even like when you identify the number of stakeholders, it's kind of like, it actually gives that how much of elicitation you are going to do. That determines whatever the things that is going to happen down the line. Okay, because in a business analysis project, I would say a high percentage of time, typically it ranges from 30 to 60% of the time we spend in elicitation. If it is a first of its kind project, you may be talking to your stakeholders for 60% of the time in the entire project. If it is a routine project, it may be 30%. Okay, it varies from project to project, right? So the stakeholder identification is the most important activity, which is going to determine not only the time it takes to do the business analysis, but also it determines the success of business analysis. If I select wrong stakeholders, if I miss out the stakeholders, then you know what is the result of this particular project, or what is the result of this business analysis project. So selecting a correct stakeholder, selecting right stakeholders and relevant stakeholders and not missing any of them is very important and paramount to the success of a business analysis project. Okay. Then our two other areas where we intensely work with our stakeholders are elicitation and requirements management and communication. In elicitation, you are going and meeting the stakeholders, and the information flow is from stakeholders to the business analyst, right? During elicitation, the information flow is, though we ask the questions, okay, but the information flow, the kind of like the main flow is from our stakeholders to the business analyst. But on the other hand, when we go to this requirements management communication, the information flow is from the business analyst towards the stakeholders. Okay, that is a kind of like, I would say, this is the main direction. Okay, I'm not saying like others will not make the communication, but in case of elicitation, the information flow is towards the business analyst, and in requirements management communication, the information flow is from the business analyst towards the stakeholders, right? So the thing is like, if you see this particular slide, what you are having now, there is a red star close to this business analysis planning and monitoring. The reason why we have this here is, we want to mention here very clearly or precisely that I am going to identify my stakeholders during business analysis planning and monitoring. And in our chapter 2 in BABOK, we have a very specific task that is conduct stakeholder analysis, right? This is conduct stakeholder analysis. This is the second task in business analysis planning and monitoring, which is the first knowledge area in BABOK, that is chapter 2. And if you see this, we have in each of the tasks, this is one of the tasks, right? One of the 32 tasks we have in BABOK version 2. And in this particular task, what is the output? We create stakeholder list, roles and responsibilities. It is not just naming them. It is not only naming them, but in addition to that, what is their role and what is their responsibilities? We have to nail it down at this point of time, right? And what are all the inputs I am using? The inputs are business need, enterprise architecture, and organizational process assets, are shortly known as OPA. The thing is like here, the business need and the enterprise architecture is highlighted, right? What is the business need? The business need, what we get, this is the document we generate during enterprise analysis, right? This is the one which we do before business analysis planning and monitoring, where the project was born, right? Where the project was given shape. Okay, the management approves the business case and the project is born, right? So the business need has been, this is the document that is coming from the enterprise analysis. So that is one of the input. Okay, because before talking to people or before identifying the people, I should know that what is the need we are talking about. It need not have to be a business need. It could be a business problem or a business opportunity. Okay. When BABOK uses the word phrase business need, the underlying meaning is it could be a need, problem, or opportunity. Right? We have to take that way. And the other one is enterprise architecture. When we say enterprise architecture, many a time we think like an organization chart, but it is much more than that, right? The organization chart is a pure skeleton. It shows like who is reporting to whom and what is their level in the hierarchy. But the enterprise architecture is, it shows the complete ecosystem of an organization. Like in what environment it is working, what are all the regulatory bodies, who are all the suppliers, who are all the customers. It kind of like it puts everything into perspective, and you see the moving linkages. This is like you are kind of like, many a time you might have seen some costly watches, right? It shows the gears and everything inside the watch, right? It's maybe a very fancy watch. The thing is like the enterprise architecture is like we are seeing the functioning elements of an organization, right? That is the way we have to see. The enterprise architecture is a very meaningful phrase, right? It is much more than an organization chart. Organization chart is a very static one, right? Static in the sense at that point of time. Okay. The thing is, in an organization chart, what we see like who is the CEO, who is the VPs, who are all the VPs, and kind of like what is the reporting relationship they have. It's a very high level, right? But when we say enterprise architecture, it gives a complete idea to a business analyst and what are all the moving things, okay, within that organization and how it is related with its outside world, right? An organization is not an individual entity, right? It is working in an ecosystem. It has its environment. It has to be peaceful with its environments for its survival, right? That is the enterprise architecture. The thing is like we have to keep at that level. That is a very, very high thing, right? So we need these two inputs. That is the business need and the enterprise architecture. These are the two main inputs required to conduct stakeholder analysis. Without business need, I cannot do any stakeholder analysis. Okay, I cannot conduct a stakeholder analysis. The reason is, the thing is like I don't know whom to talk. I don't know what they want. Okay, I have to identify the relevant people, right? That relevancy is missing without the business need. If I don't have the document, the business need document, I cannot identify my stakeholders. And once I have the business need, I should know where are these people. I should have a site map, right? That site map is given by this enterprise architecture. And of course, the organization process assets are nothing but they are the procedures and policies what you have in the organization, right? With this, we do the conduct stakeholder analysis. When you have all these inputs, you are ready to carry out the stakeholder analysis. You can conduct stakeholder analysis. And the only output what we generate here is the stakeholder list, roles and responsibilities, right? So this is the outcome of this particular conduct stakeholder analysis. And now we will get into the more detailed aspects. So now we have to ask the question, we are using this word stakeholder again and again, but what does it mean, right? Stakeholders are people or organizations that directly or indirectly influence the requirements of a system. Sounds little tough, right? Let us phrase it a little bit different. Okay. The thing is, stakeholders are the people who are either affecting or affected by. Okay. Just keep this in mind. Stakeholders are the people. Okay. Or take a project. Okay. Take a project, a business analysis project. The people who are capable of affecting this project, the people who could be affected by this project are called the stakeholders. Let us go to this next slide. You see, there is a solution. We are going to, as a business analyst, what we do? We recommend solutions, right? We recommend solutions to the organization to help the organization to reach its goals and objectives, right? And here we are talking about a solution. As a business analyst, we talk about recommending solutions, right? And ultimately it is going to become a project. It is going to be implemented. That when the solution is implemented, when the solution is deployed, it becomes a project or you get a product out of that, right? So here we are talking about solution. The people who are capable of affecting the solution and the people who are affected by this solution, if you put together these two group of people, then we form the stakeholders, right? In PMBOK and BABOK, we have a kind of like the similar meanings. Okay, it is very precise. In one book we read it is affecting and affected by, in the other book it is impacting and impacted by, meaning the same, right? So when we say stakeholders, it's made up of two group of people, two set of people. One group is capable of affecting this project, the other group is affected by the project. One is in the giving end, the other is in the receiving end. That is the reason we have the arrowheads in different directions, right? The people who are capable of affecting a project, who are they? The top management, the CEO, VPs, CFO, he has to give the money, right? And the project manager, business analyst, system analyst, testers, developers, all these people are capable of affecting the project. They give shape to this project. They are like sculptors. We are like sculptors, right? We sizzle the stone and we make the image. And we are capable of affecting the project, right? On the other hand, the people like the users, customers, vendors, they are affected by the project. We are going to change the way they are working so far. The way they have been doing their work so far, we are going to tremendously make a change, right? So that is the reason we say the two group of people, that is one is capable of affecting a project, the other is affected by the project. These two groups put together, we form the stakeholders. If you talk about like few years, like maybe not few years, maybe a couple of decades back, in 1990s, okay, when I was working for an organization, it is typically, the thing is like whenever a software is implemented, the people who are affecting the project, they are given much importance. This is the typical scenario few years back, right, or kind of like several decades back. It's a kind of like the people who are affecting the project, they have the very good presence in the stakeholders, but the people who are affected by are not given much importance. It is not purposefully done. It is a mistake. It is not understanding the word stakeholders. What it results? We may create a wonderful project, but there is no user adoption. We miss some requirements. We miss like what they need. Okay, so all those things happens as a result of missing the important stakeholders. So we have to be, when we talk about stakeholders, it has equal importance and relevance to the people who are capable of affecting and the people who are affected by. Both these people put together, they form the stakeholders. Okay, I got some questions. So keep typing your question, okay? Keep typing your question, and the things like the appropriate time we will discuss, or we will have like a 10 minutes discussion at the end of the session so that we can carry out, we can clarify all those questions. Okay, let us move to the next one. The first one is impact table. This is a very simple way to identify the stakeholders, like just from the definition what we discussed just now. It has these two columns, right? One is who can affect the solution, and the second one is who will be affected by the solution, right? Who can affect the solution, who will be affected by the solution. If we fill this particular table, we have the stakeholders. I would say it is a very straightforward way of doing right from the definition of stakeholders. What we said, who is the stakeholder? The people who are capable of affecting a project and the people who are affected by the project. Both these people are stakeholders, right? So we have this as two columns here. Okay, so this is a very easy way of finding the stakeholders. Okay, let us move on. The next one is onion diagram. In case of onion diagram, it is about like layering these stakeholders. Layering. You are finding the 4 layers, right? That is the reason we call it like onion. Okay, it is a kind of like the layer within a layer. Okay. So the centermost, which is called the solution delivery layer. The solution delivery layer is composed of people who create this solution, right? The solution delivery is the layer, or that is the group of people who create the solution. Of course, it is the entire project team, developers, testers, business analysts, system analysts, solution architects, everybody put together, because they are the people who create this solution. That is the core stakeholder team. Then the next one is the organization unit which is affected by the solution. And these are all the people who are affected by the solution, right? It is composed of users, vendors, and other people. The next layer is organization or enterprise. This is the other elements of the organization or other people within the organization who are typically at a very high level, that is stakeholders, various executives and SMEs. Okay, these people who are kind of like giving the direction to this project itself. Okay, these people are the kind of like they are affecting this solution. They are the people who are falling under the affecting category. And the last one is, that is the environment. That is the environment within which this particular solution has to do its job. Okay, the thing is like the solution has to function within this environment, and that is composed of your customers, suppliers, regulators. The most important is regulator here. Okay, because this is the external stakeholder, key external stakeholder. One of the things is regulators. The other two are customers, suppliers, and some other people. So if you see these 4 layers, we can group them into the two buckets. If you see the solution delivery and the organization or enterprise layer, the layer 1 starting from the innermost, that is the layer 1, which is solution delivery, and the layer 3, these are all the people capable of affecting this project, right? These 2 layers. And the layer 2 and 4, that is capable of or that are affected by the business analysis project. Okay, so again, it is the same definition, but we started seeing a little bit more clear, right? It is a kind of like, rather than talking about 2 groups, now we are talking about 4 groups, so that it gives more detailed perspective. So as we move on into this various techniques of identifying the stakeholders, we will get a kind of like more and more classification on this. Okay, so onion diagram is a very simple tool to group our stakeholders or to categorize our stakeholders into these 4 groups. Okay, now you may have a doubt that as a business analyst, which technique I should use in the given context. Okay, in a particular situation, which technique? Is it an impact table or onion diagram or a PSP approach or CRUD Matrix? Which one I have to use? I would say this is determined by the context itself. The situation demands which technique I have to use. And the other one is, we may not be able to get the answer in a single technique. We may have to use a complex of or kind of like a combination of these techniques. The reason is, it's a kind of like each technique has its plus and minus, right? The thing is like, if I want to do this impact table, it is a very straightforward method and I can do it very easily. That may be a first level. But when I do onion diagram, I'm kind of like, it is kind of like giving me further insights. So what these techniques are doing, whether it is impact table or onion diagram or CRUD Matrix or PSP approach, what are all this talking about? The thing is like, these techniques will not give me the stakeholders right away. It is not the press of a button, by just using this technique I get all my stakeholders. No. It is just enabling us to think and organize the stakeholders. It is just helping me to think in a different direction to identify these stakeholders. That's it. So it is ultimately we who select the stakeholders, not these techniques. But the techniques are giving a framework to identify these stakeholders. It gives me different perspectives of thinking. Most of the techniques in business analysis we have in this way, right? We cannot kind of like this by just deploying this technique. I will not be kind of like downloading a list of stakeholders from the technique. No, it doesn't happen, right? It is just the framework which helps me to think in a particular direction, or it pokes me to ask a question. Okay, the thing is like, oh geez, I forgot this particular thing. Okay, so then you will think in that particular direction and identify some more stakeholders. Okay, so that is the help of these techniques. Okay. The next one is stakeholder wheel. The stakeholder wheel is, again, like as we discussed, it is giving us a structure to think about the various stakeholders. And the different stakeholders identified, the different group of stakeholders, which is identified in the stakeholder wheel, is the 8 ones which you are seeing on the slide. Owners, managers, employees, regulators, suppliers, partners, customers, and competitors. These are all the 8 groups your stakeholder may fit into. The owners are the people who are the board of directors, the proprietor, okay, the directors of the organization. They are falling under the owners. The managers are the top level people, the top tier management. Managers, vice presidents, everyone. Employees, the staff. The regulators, the regulatory body. For example, in case of banking industry, RBI is the regulatory body, right? So the same way the regulators. Suppliers, it is written as supplies, but it is suppliers. The people who are providing services and products to your organization. Okay, they are part of success of your organization. And partners, any tie-ups you have with the different organization or entities. Customers, to whom you exist or to whom you are serving. The competitors, the people who sell similar or substitutes that can kind of like that is competing with the products or services you are offering. So when we go through the stakeholder wheel, we can think that who are all the owners I have to include as stakeholder, who are all the managers I have to include as stakeholder, who are all the employees, regulators. We can ask these questions. And here I have given an example that this is from National Health Service UK. The thing is like whenever a service is designed for a patients, okay, whenever a service is designed for patients, the National Health Service asks the service providers, the different hospitals, right? They ask these different hospitals that whenever you design a treatment, whenever you design a service for your patients, you have to think about all these different stakeholders in this particular wheel. It is like some of them I'm reading, that is local service providers, regulators, service users, and etc. The same way, if I am working in a particular organization, I can come out with a particular stakeholder wheel, because most of the time we do similar kind of project. Though our business analysis projects varies tremendously, but the thing is like we can put them into different buckets, right? These are all the products I am selling for this particular type of industry, and this is the outcome of this product, or this is the requirements that are delivered by this project or product. So we can come out with a stakeholder wheel for different product lines or service lines. That will help us to think all the stakeholders and identify them in an easier manner. Okay, so the stakeholder wheel is again another tool just to instigate our thinking. It is helping us to identify the stakeholders and organize them into this so that we will not miss out any of the stakeholders. Missing a stakeholder is the biggest risk a business analyst can introduce into a business analysis project. And the later a stakeholder is identified, the costlier it becomes, right? When a requirement is identified in first place correctly, that is the most cost-effective business analysis project or a project altogether. But if a requirement is identified which is incorrect, and it is identified or found as incorrect at a later, the more time it takes, the costlier it becomes to correct it, right? And we have like various figures from different organizations. Sometimes like in one organization, for example, IIBA says that if you find a wrong requirement, it can cost as high as 50 to 100 times to correct after implementation. It's a phenomenal cost, right? So the thing is like the stakeholder wheel or any of these techniques, it is helping us to identify the right stakeholders and at the same time avoid us missing any of these stakeholders. Then RACI Matrix. The RACI Matrix stands for responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. The meaning of these 4 words: responsible are the people who do the work. Accountable are the people who are the process owners and they are responsible for the decision making. Let us take a bank branch. The tellers who are sitting in a row, where we do this transaction, the tellers are the people who are responsible. Okay, they carry out certain activities, they do these transactions, and they are not authorized to change any of those process. And that is rest with the branch manager. Assume, okay, he's the branch manager. Typically it comes from the headquarters of the bank, but assume that here the branch manager is taking care of this. But he may not be doing the work, but he is accountable for that. That is, he is the decision maker. The decision rests with this particular person, and he is authorized to do or to introduce any change in this particular process. Right? Accountable are the person who is the process owner, who is the decision maker. He is authorized with the powers to introduce any changes there. That is accountable. The responsible are the people who deliver the work or who do the work on day-to-day basis. So the relationship is typically the responsible people maybe, in most cases, they report to the accountable people, right? And the consulted and informed are the people. These are other two different groups. Before introducing any change in a process, I have to talk to the people where they will suffer a huge impact. That is consulted. Okay, I'm going to impact some amount of their activity or kind of like the way they do. And informed people are where I have to just provide the information that this is the change we have done here. Okay, that is informed people. So the RACI matrix helps us to think that who are all the various stakeholders and what is their level of engagement in this business analysis project. It is the next level. It is not alone identifying the stakeholder. The RACI matrix helps us to organize that what is the level of engagement of the stakeholders in this particular project. The thing is, like, whenever I want to go for an approval, I will not go to the responsible people. I will go to the accountable people. Whenever I want to understand how the real work is, I will go and talk to the responsible people, right? So it gives another perspective about the stakeholders. Not all stakeholders are equal, okay, right? Here we understand, so far what we were discussing is, we just kind of like put these stakeholders in different buckets. But now here we are saying, not all stakeholders are equal. The stakeholders have different levels of engagement. I have to kind of like completely satisfy the accountable people, because if I'm not satisfying or if they are not buying in what I'm recommending, maybe they will not sign off on this project, right? They will not sign off or they will not agree with your requirements. So the thing is, like, I have to, ultimately the accountable people have to approve the changes what you are going to introduce. Okay, these are all the accountable people. So now we are understanding when we put these stakeholders in the list of activities and the stakeholders, and we make the RACI matrix, you make it very clear that not all my stakeholders are equal. And the thing is, like, I will talk to the respective people with respect to that particular activity. Okay, so that gives me more perspective about the stakeholders. Okay, let us move to the next. So there's a kind of like, you will be having access to the presentation, and the thing is, like, we will communicate that to you soon. And the thing is, like, here you can have like more, you can read more explanations into this presentation. Okay, and this is a sample RACI matrix, and you can go through this. And one of the things, like, sometimes it surprised us. You see, for a given process or a given activity, there is only one accountable. You should not have more than one accountable. If we have more than one accountable in a activity or in a process, that means something wrong. Two people are authorized to approve the changes. So it introduces some sort of diciness, right? Whenever we have two bosses, you know the problem, right? So here, when we have two accountable for a given activity or given a process, for a given process, the thing is, like, it is something wrong. So accountable should be only one per line. Only one A you should be able to see in a line. If there is more than one A, there is something wrong. But you can have more responsible, more consulted, more informed people in a RACI matrix, right? So the one accountable, that kind of like immediately throws there's something wrong in this RACI matrix itself. Or it may be representing the true fact within the organization, but it is not good. It may be the practice of the organization, but it is a wrong practice. It is not a best practice, right? Fine. The PSP approach is one other approach. This is a process-centric approach. Though this is a very long one, but I will try to go kind of like I will try to make it justice for this discussion. You see, the PSP approach stands for processes, systems, and people. These people are your stakeholders. This is like a ladder approach. I first identify the processes, then I will identify the systems, then ultimately I will identify the people who are your stakeholders. So what do we mean by a process? Process is a set of sequential activities carried out in a predetermined order to deliver value to the customers, right? That is a process. If you take any organization in the world, it has finite number of processes, right? All organizations have several processes, but it is not infinite. It is finite, right? Even a largest organization on the globe, they have finite number of processes. So the processes can be classified into three groups or three buckets: primary, secondary, and management processes. So what we want to understand here in PSP approach, first I will, for my organization, I will list out what are all the processes I have in my organization. I will list out all those processes, and once I identify the processes, I will group them into primary, secondary, and management processes. Whenever I am given a business analysis project, right? Whenever I am given a business analysis project, I will go through this list, that is the process list what I have in front of me, and I will just check mark that what are all these processes I am going to affect, or in my business analysis project, which of these processes are going to be affected. I should be concerned only about those processes. When I identified that these are all the processes I am going to work on, these are all the processes going to be impacted by the business analysis project, then I will take those processes, I will take their current state maps, and I will be working on. And when I identify the processes, it becomes easy to identify the systems. So what are systems basically? The systems are the softwares, application, or machineries. They are sitting on a process to automate some element of the process or the entire process. In case of a ERP, it may be automating the entire process. So it depends, right? So a system may automate an element of a process or a section of a process or an entire process. So when I identify the process, I can easily identify that what are all the systems that are sitting on this process. So system doesn't exist on its own. The systems are sitting on the processes. So when I identify the process, when I know this is the process I'm going to affect, then I know very well that these are all the systems sitting on this process. I can identify the systems as well. So who are all these people? These people are the stakeholders who are having good knowledge about these systems and the processes. Simple. So this is one way of identifying the stakeholders who are having a good knowledge about these processes and good hands-on with these systems, typically the users, right? So when we go through this ladder approach, we can easily identify the stakeholders, and it is very hard to miss the stakeholder. Okay, but I don't say that you will find all the stakeholders. None of these techniques guarantees you will identify all the stakeholders. So we have to use a mixed approach. Okay, it depends on the business analysis project which you have in hand. Okay, so each technique has its own methodologies or kind of like own advantages. Here, from the process perspective, from the system perspective, you will identify all the stakeholders, but may not be some of the stakeholders in the management. May not be, you may not, because management doesn't come here, right? So the thing is like it's a kind of like each has advantages as well as disadvantages. So we have to think about a mixed approach, a hybrid approach between these various techniques what we have. Okay, now we discussed that three process types we have, right? Primary processes, secondary processes, management processes. Let us have a minute discussion on this. What are primary processes? Primary processes are the ones your organization is in existence for. Primary processes are the ones that is delivered by the organization as the major service or product. For example, for a hospital, in a hospital, the primary processes are the patient treatment and the laboratory services. The organization is in existence to deliver these products or services. Those are all the primary processes. Or that is the mission of the organization. They are in existence for that very purpose. Those qualifies as primary processes. Then the secondary processes are those that are supporting these primary processes to make it more effective and robust. Those are all the secondary processes. The management processes are those that are governing and controlling these primary and secondary processes. So primary processes are those that are kind of like, that is the mission of the organization. That is the very purpose that the organization in existence for. You cannot find a hospital which cannot provide a treatment and laboratory service because it is a primary process. Then secondary processes are those that are supporting this primary process. For example, housekeeping and IT services in a hospital. A hospital is not in existence for housekeeping and IT services, right? But these are all the supporting service, or these are all the secondary processes that are helping these primary processes to function effectively. And at last we have these management processes which are helping the management to control this primary and secondary processes, whether they are performing within the boundary, right? So it is called a process control, right? So these are all the three types of process we have. And once we have the idea about these processes, okay, once we have the idea about the processes, we can easily find out, okay, what are all the systems that are sitting on those processes. And when we know this is the process, this is the system I am going to affect, then you can easily find out the relevant people and you can identify the process owners and the system users or the system analysts who developed this. So all these people you can kind of like collect them and they are your stakeholders. Okay, now let us talk a little bit about this particular thing. I wanted to discuss in a greater detail, but due to paucity of time, we will just browse through this. Okay, so what are the primary processes in a coffee shop like Starbucks, right? It is they kind of like they promise to deliver two things, right? The ambience management, okay, that is kind of like they provide an environment. The second thing is, of course, you can get coffee, right? Sometime back, like I was watching one of the television ad, it says like it is about a smartphone, right? And it says like you can do this, and finally it says, of course, you can make calls, right? So it is something like that. So here it is the ambience that is guaranteed, okay, and it is a kind of like they also serve coffee, right? This is the two primary processes. There may be several primary processes just for our discussion. Then the secondary process could be sourcing, raw material procurement, testing, and housekeeping. Okay, so these could be the secondary processes. The management processes, that how much time people stay in this in the coffee outlet. Okay, how many people come in a day. Okay, then kind of like how many orders people ordered in a day. Okay, so this could be the management process and several others. Okay, now once you the main point I want to discuss is like the process map. So here you can see the process map. For example, after going through the thing, like the business analysis project given to me is, I'm just kind of like talking about the business analysis project here. The business analysis, assume that I am the business analyst working in Starbucks. Okay, I'm the business analyst working for Starbucks. And now I got a call from VP customer service and he is talking about kind of like we want to introduce a loyalty card. I don't know whether Starbucks has, just I'm throwing this completely imagination. Okay, we want to introduce a loyalty card. The loyalty card is kind of like the people who come to our outlet, any of the outlets in the world. They are present in 60 countries. You travel anywhere in the world, you go to Starbucks. The thing is like the moment you present the card, they know what you like, right? It is about my preference. Rather than saying like coffee latte, tall, medium, and the kind of like the cream, all those things, rather than giving like so much of specifications, because the thing is like making coffee kind of like ordering a coffee becomes complex and complex, right? We are introducing a lot of flavors and taste. It's a kind of like which I prefer in summer, which I prefer in winter. Now with this loyalty card, the store outlet can easily find out wherever I am on the world, right? Whichever the outlet I visit, they know that this is my preference at this point of the time in a year, right? So the thing is like they want to introduce the card, and this is called the loyalty card. Of course, it gives you some benefits. You will earn some points, okay? And the most important thing is it has the preference encoded, right? So that is the thing they want to introduce. And now I'm going through like various processes, and I identified that this one process, that is order placement and coffee brewing, this is one of the process that is going to be affected. And when I go through this process map, this is kind of like exactly for Starbucks. The thing is like we start with like that is we have 3 swim lanes here. The first swim lane is customer, the second one is billing clerk, the third one is service executive. The customer is like walking into this outlet and he says like, okay, he's selecting a coffee, informing the billing clerk, and immediately he kind of like start typing into a system. This system is going to be impacted. So that is the reason we have a star mark. This particular process map shows 2 systems. It is kind of like within the dotted red line or dotted red box. You have this kind of like 2 boxes, right? One is order module, the other one is coffee brewer. 2 are systems. These 2 systems are in this process. So what we discussed, a system or a software or a application or a machinery is sitting on the process to automate some element of the process or the entire process. That's what we discussed, right? So here you are finding 2 systems that are sitting on this process, and I'm least bothered about the other system, that is the coffee brewer, but I am very much bothered about this order module, which is one of the system sitting on this process. So the thing is like when I inform this billing clerk, of course I will present my loyalty card to this guy. So I have to do some changes in this particular order module. So it gives me, the thing is like it is not only the PSP approach not only helps me to identify the stakeholders, but it also gives me insights into which system is going to be affected and which part of that system is going to be affected. And it is a very much process-centric approach where we can easily identify that what is the extent of this impact. This is in a way, it is kind of like the impact analysis in your current state. Because the current state is the one which doesn't have this facility, right? And when we want to introduce this loyalty system or kind of like some changes that gets into this order module to accommodate the loyalty card acceptance, okay, I have to change this module. So the thing is like the PSP approach helps us to identify the stakeholders to kind of like relevant to my process and the systems, and also helps me to identify the impact, okay, or estimate the impact. The CRUD matrix is kind of like, you see, the CRUD matrix is used in 2 occasions, right, or 2 contexts. One is, it can clearly display the relationship between the use cases what you have developed and the entities or the class, okay, in a matrix model like what you are seeing. Okay, the CRUD stands for create, read, update, and delete actions. And this is another way. It also tells us kind of like, have I missed anyone? This is like I would say a validation. At this point of time, this is a very last phase to identify your stakeholders, right? Because after use case, we will not identify the stakeholders, but at least I can identify, have I missed any of the stakeholders? Okay, so the CRUD matrix is a kind of like, I would say, very little value addition in identifying stakeholders, but in a way, it is kind of like helps you to validate or kind of like to validate your stakeholders. And the thing is like, you know, what are all the responsibilities of these people. Some stakeholders are responsible for creation. Okay, you have to talk to them about kind of like what are all the information you want to include in this particular form, because they are creating, and somebody is kind of like deleting. Okay, to them you have to talk to them to identify that when it is being deleted, what are all the things need to be modified. You have to talk these things to this particular person. And somebody who is reading, which information should be presented to him or her, that is very important, right? Then update, whenever the things are getting updated, who should have what level of rights to update. So the thing is like your stakeholder, we are seeing the stakeholder now in a different perspective, that is permissions, right? Today all softwares, like we don't have equal permissions for all the stakeholders in the organization. Then it will be we will be introducing a huge chaos, right? Somebody will be kind of like creating, somebody will be deleting, okay, or somebody will be modifying easily. So we want to give, the thing is like this is the rights you have. So we have to identify the permission level with each of the stakeholders using this CRUD matrix, but this is not helpful to identify the stakeholder, but validate what is the level of permission they should possess, and kind of like did I talk to them about the permission needs they should possess in this particular software or a system. Okay, so the thing is like so far what we discussed is, let me go back to the first slide. You see, we said who are all the stakeholders? The stakeholders are the people who are capable of affecting and affected by, right? The stakeholders are the people who are capable of affecting a project and affected by a project. They are stakeholders. And we said the stakeholders can be identified using these 6 techniques or 6 tools. Okay. The thing is like the word of caution here is, just by using the techniques, I am not going to get a list of stakeholders, right? Just by kind of like knowing the technique, I'm not going to get a list of stakeholders like a kind of like a printer is ejecting the sheet, a printed sheet. No. It is, the thing is like these 6 techniques will help me to give the perspectives, the needed perspective to help me to think in different directions. So one technique will not guarantee all your stakeholders. Maybe we have to use a hybrid approach, depends on the situation, and the thing is like all depends on the context, we can identify the various stakeholders. So with this I conclude my session. Thank you so much for participating. But before we close, the things like if you have any questions, please type your questions in the chat area so that we can kind of like we can address those questions and we will wind up the session. And the things like being a long weekend, you must be excited. Okay, so the thing is like let us kind of like if you have any questions, you can just type in the chat area. Yeah, the thing is like you will be getting the link. Actually, it is being recorded. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Kannan sir. Thank you for your participation. And really, we are delighted that you have also attended this session. Okay, thank you so much, sir, for your time. And the thing is like now you can type your questions. Yeah, of course you will get this audio recording. And the thing is like you will be getting through IIBA chapter, IIBA Chennai chapter. And the thing is like we will let you know about this. Yeah, any other questions? Yeah, there is a question about, is there any difference in understanding stakeholder analysis in BABOK version 3? The thing is like, I would say like, you see, still I'm going through BABOK V3, honestly. Okay, it's a kind of like recently released and I'm still going through. So far, I haven't found any great changes. Okay, the thing is like the stakeholder is a stakeholder always, right? So the thing is like, but we have additional tools available. Okay, so you can kind of like, you can enhance your understanding with those additional tools. Okay. One other question. The thing is like the question is like from Mahesh. They just act as end users. Okay. The thing is like I won't say end users are one section. Okay. The end users of one section of the thing is like the entire stakeholders. Okay. It's a kind of like not the entire stakeholders, right? You might have understood this. Okay, the thing is, end users are the people who are affected by this business analysis project or affected by this project, but there are several other people who give shape to this project itself, right? So I would say it is one puzzle in the entire piece, right? It is one piece in the entire puzzle. Okay, not the whole thing. Okay, and Kannan sir shared something. I'm just reading for your benefit. Lots of implicit knowledge gets unlocked by tapping the right stakeholders. That is absolutely correct, sir. The thing is like, what sir is saying is, the thing is like by knowing the stakeholders, okay, the implicit knowledge, which is not codified anywhere in the organization, you will not find the book, right? You will not kind of like get the information, you will not get the information what you are getting from the stakeholders from anywhere else. The reason is they have been there for several years and they are doing that kind of like they have seen all the scenarios. not everything is codified in your organization, but when you talk to them and when you tap their knowledge, you kind of like, you get that knowledge. Okay. And another point, just like you don't, this again from Kannan sir, just like you don't identify all stakeholders, you may identify wrong ones. Okay, that is very true. The thing is like it's a kind of like to the extent possible we should be we should be kind of like very careful in identifying the right stakeholders. Okay, we should be very careful in identifying the right stakeholders. Sometimes wrong stakeholders may create trouble or even derail the BA project. Okay, thank you, sir. So, and the other question is from Prashant. If there are two organizations, client plus creative agency, okay, with whom it is required to work, and there are lot of communication gap, how do we identify and can handle stakeholders who have different interests out of the project? Okay, you see, I would say in this case, since I don't know the entire situation, maybe I will give my 2 cents. The thing is like, you see, when you understand that this is the kind of like, this is the final value you are going to deliver. Okay, but what is the ultimate business requirement of that particular business analysis project? Okay, that should be the starting point, and that is the business need, right? When we have this business need, it gives us a very clear-cut idea that who are all the people should be involved first place, and when we use these different techniques, we will be able to narrow down. Okay, and many a times you may kind of like people will volunteer that they want to be part of this team. It is not just their interest. Okay, but the thing is like, we have to also understand that what is demanded by this project and who will add value to this project. It is not kind of like whoever wants to join this project. No, that is not the case, right? So it is about the people who will deliver value to this project, right? So that are the people, either they should be fall in one of this category, right? Either they are affected by or affecting. Okay, they should be falling in one of these categories, without which I would say maybe like we are adding a overburden. The thing is like, having too many unnecessary stakeholders, it definitely a problem to a project. Okay, and I have question from Kribagaran. Okay, what will be the best practice to identify the right stakeholders? I would say the thing is like, it is like, I will go back to what Kannan sir just typed here. I want to read it verbatim. Okay, you see, lots of implicit knowledge gets unlocked by tapping the right stakeholders. Okay, the thing is like, for tapping this knowledge, first I should know who are all the people, understanding the people within the organization. The best practice is the thing is like, I assume that I joined the organization as a business analyst. Until I know all the people within the organization, okay, to a great extent, I will not be able to tap their knowledge. I should know what are their capabilities. First, I should know the things like, if I'm joining an organization as a business analyst, the thing is like, many organizations doesn't give this time for orientation, right? That is not a good thing in case of a business analyst. As a business analyst, I should get a decent time for orientation. If some organization is not giving to you, you can even ask the people. Okay, you can ask the concerned that to give orientation in the organization. Okay, that is very much important, because as a business analyst, we work with people. We ultimately create systems, but we work with people to create those systems, right? So I have to have a clear understanding about the organization and about the people. When I know the people and their knowledge level and their importance and the things like their experience within the organization, then I can do this lot of the kind of like the unlocking or tapping the implicit knowledge of the stakeholders. Okay. The thing is like, knowing the stakeholders or understanding the people within the organization is the first thing. Then I can identify the right stakeholders. So it is a kind of like, there is no other technique for this purpose. It is basically, we have to do the homework, right? As a business analyst, we have to do the homework to understand the organization as a whole and understanding the people within the organization. Then I can kind of like, I know that whom to ask. So that comes with the experience. And here, just for our kind of like our participants' benefit, I want to make a point. The thing is like, you see, unlike the IT people, the business analyst should not jump organization to organization within a year or 2 years. Okay, as a business analyst, we should be stay put. Okay, we should be stay put in the same organization at least 5 to 7 years. Only then we can make a great impact within the organization. The reason is I need at least 2 years to understand the business model of the organization, to understand all the people working in the organization. And if I'm jumping the organization very frequently, it is not in the great interest of the business analyst as well as in the organization. None of them will benefit. But if I'm staying in the organization, I will get a tremendous understanding about the organization, and that will help me to contribute in a much better manner to the organization. And of course, when we contribute very well to the organization, of course we are getting benefited, right? So it is a win-win situation. So as a business analyst, we should try to we should strive to stay in the organization for a longer period. Okay, I'm reading a point from Kannan sir. It is bit like a treasure hunt based on clues to identify the right ones. Okay, perfect, sir. The thing is, yeah, it is a kind of like, you see, we may talk n number of techniques about stakeholders, but at the end, as sir said, it is like a treasure hunt. Okay, it is like, you see, it is like you try to find out the right stakeholders, right? It is like a treasure hunt based on clues to identify the right ones. We talk to a lot of people, so the thing is like we come across the good stakeholders. Most times we may get, most times we may not get. Okay, it depends. Okay, so the thing is like the techniques are one part. Okay, that is, I would say, the scientific side. The art side is like what sir said. Okay, thank you, Prabhakaran. You are welcome. So if there is no questions, then we will conclude at this point. And once again, thank you for Kannan sir. And the thing is like we delivered this session on behalf of IIBA Chennai chapter. And thank you for your attendance. And hope most of you have a long weekend after this webinar. I wish you all enjoy a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much. Bye for now.